Okay, so let's get one thing straight with this year's 2022 iPad Pro. Yes, it does come with Apple's M1 chip, and actually in our testing we found that the 2022 iPad Air is just as fast as the iPad Pro in both CPU and GPU speeds. So with that said, does this mean that the 2022 iPad Air is essentially the new iPad Pro? I probably wouldn't go that far exactly. Now, before getting into that comparison, what's the difference between this year's iPad and last year's? Not that much, actually. We still have the same 10.9-inch liquid Retina display, which is still, by the way, one of the best displays I've ever seen on a tablet. We have the Touch ID sensor on the power button, so no Face ID. Still the Apple Pencil Gen 2 support, and USB-C as your main port, though the M1 chip in this year's model allows for double the transfer speed that we saw in USB-C versus what we had last year. Now, what's really cool are the two new features, which include a new front-facing camera and also 5G support. So starting with that camera experience, and we now have a new 12 megapixel ultra wide front facing camera, which will give you access to features like center stage, 2x zoom, and of course, higher quality video during FaceTime calls or recordings. It's actually a huge upgrade versus what we had before. The only drawback though is just like the MacBook Pro, iPad mini, and 9th generation iPad, this camera does not have the true depth technology, so there isn't Face ID or Animoji and Memoji support or portrait mode photography, just in case you really wanted those features. Now, switching over to 5G, and yeah, everything is going to have 5G these days, so the addition of 5G wasn't a huge surprise to me, but what really surprised me was that there was a lack of mmWave technology in this 5G support, which means you're only accessing the more broad general spectrum of 5G speeds, and you're not accessing those high 5G peak speeds on this iPad Air, so that's a huge drawback to not being able to access those top tier 5G speeds. So yeah, that's about it with all of the new stuff for this year's iPad Air. It got that new M1 chip, Apple's fastest ever chip in a tablet. You have the new front-facing camera, which looks absolutely fantastic, and also the addition of 5G support, allowing you to work on the go with an even faster connection versus 4G LTE. You even have some new color options, one being the amazing blue color, which looks super awesome in all lighting conditions and is something that we've never seen before from Apple, so this is definitely something special. But now that we've went over all of those new features, how does this device compare with the iPad Pro with that same M1 chip installed? Well, with the iPad Air, you don't get the 11-inch Liquid Retina Pro Motion display, the up to 2 terabytes of storage, the dual 12 and 10 megapixel wide and ultra wide camera setup, true depth front-facing camera support, Thunderbolt 4, or even the full 5G mmWave connection, all of which comes with the 11-inch iPad Pro starting at just $799, just $200 more than the starting price of the iPad Air for this year. So I guess this is where I get a little bit confused. Why not spend the extra $200 to get all of those amazing features on the iPad Pro and even double the storage while you're at it, because the iPad Pro starts at just 128 gigabytes. I mean, at the end of the day, you can do quite a bit with the iPad Air despite it lacking the full set of artistic features that the iPad Pro has. But honestly, for $200 more, I can't really make an argument for the iPad Air when at the time of making this video, the 2021 11-inch iPad Pro is probably the better way to go, as it just has so many new features that won't really cost you that much and has the same performance as the iPad Air. Now, honestly, if the 2022 iPad Air was just $100 cheaper, my take on this video would have been entirely different. But it's just way too close in price with the iPad Pro, which is why I've had such a huge problem with the price specifically on this year's iPad Air. Now, if you guys don't really care about those high level features and are very content with the features and setup of this year's iPad Air, you could definitely pick up a Magic Keyboard and or an Apple Pencil using that $200 difference. But in my opinion, up until Apple potentially releases a new iPad Pro with higher pricing, the current 11-inch iPad Pro is still the better choice for your money. Again, in my opinion. Now, honestly, I've only had the iPad Air for just about a week now, so I won't let this be my final determination. I'll definitely keep on using the iPad Air on a daily basis, and we'll definitely follow up with that experience. But as of now, even though it might be an unpopular opinion, I'm going to stick with what I said. The current generation iPad Air is just too expensive when you have the iPad Pro with a ton of added features, just $200 over this price point. So those are my thoughts, but let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below.